What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the final draw preview of 2019 on the ATP. We do have a Davis Cup matches coming up next week, but this is the final event of the ATP official circuit, and it's a big one. The ATP Finals in London. Last time it's going to be in London for the foreseeable future. It goes to Italy next year, I'm pretty sure. So this is the last time we get to see it in the O2 Arena for at least the next 5 years. Sasha Zverev, defending champion. Got to admit, Sasha didn't have a great year. We will go through that in a second, even though he did make the finals. Didn't really live up to that expectation. Remember last year, he beat Federer and Djokovic to win the title. Didn't really live up to the expectation. I thought maybe he could crack the top three, perhaps. Maybe he could get into a final of a slam. Unfortunately, didn't make that, but maybe he can, recover that form and do it again, and maybe do something next year with some momentum. Let's talk about injuries, though, because we know Rafael Nadal has got a little bit of an injury cloud over him at the moment. Everyone else seems to be healthy, so that's a good thing. But Rafa, the number one in the world, number one seed, number one as of this week, he's under a bit of a cloud. So there are two alternates that are sitting on the sidelines, ready to play. Bautista Agut is the number one alternate, so if Rafa does pull out, which he probably could, he hasn't played this event for a while, and it could easily pull out if he plays one match and doesn't feel great. Roberto Bautista Agut is the replacement for Nadal, and if someone else pulls out, or if Nadal stays in and two other people pull out, it's going to be Monfils as well coming in for that second person. So Bautista Agut and Gael Monfils are the two replacements, you could call them, if two people get injured. So hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing happens. Hopefully we get the field that we have lined up right now. But like I said, Rafa, little injury cloud. Don't be surprised if he pulls out. He has done that in the past at this event before. Let's jump straight into it, though. We'll start with there's the Agassi group and the Bjorn Borg group. So they don't name it color groups anymore. It's not red and blue or anything like that. They call it by players, past champion players, of course. And it's Agassi and Borg. So let's jump into the first group now. And we'll start with the number one. So we just talked about Rafael Nadal, how he's under a little bit of an injury cloud, but we will go through it as if he's 100% perfect and he is going to play every single match. So as you can see there, in the blue, that is in Nadal's group, and in the red are the people that are in the opposite group. So the players that if he makes the semifinals, could be playing in that semifinal and then, of course, the final. You can see there, number one in the world as of this week. He replaced Novak Djokovic from last week, thanks to the Paris Indoor Masters, where he made the semifinals. 51 wins, 6 losses. That's actually a pretty decent record, considering he didn't play any of the Asian swings. So he got 50 wins in the season, and he got 4 titles as well. Those titles, first one was in Rome, then he played Roland Garros. He wins that again, of course. Then he won in Canada, and he also won the US Open. So 2 Masters 1000 events, 2 Grand Slam titles. And, he made the final of a couple others. He made the semifinals of Wimbledon, the final of the Australian Open, and he's had a very consistent year when he has played. So, no surprise, he's the world number one at the end of this year. It'll come down to this week who will actually be the number one end of year, because Djokovic still has a chance if Nadal doesn't play very well. You can see there, Nadal has Medvedev to start with. He's got a 2-0 head-to-head record against Medvedev. Of course, they played at that US Open final, that huge 5-set match that went for nearly 5 hours, or over 5 hours. So that'll be a fun match to watch, the replay of that. You got Tsitsipas, he's got a 4-1 record against. So the only loss in this group against Nadal, or the only win against Nadal in this group, is Tsitsipas, and that was this year. Tsitsipas beat Nadal earlier this year. And then, of course, Sasha Zverev, number 7 there, 5-0 against Sasha, so he should win that one if he plays him. I think he plays him on the first day, so you think Nadal should win that match, unless, of course, that injury comes up to hurt him. And then you can see there, Djokovic, Federer, and Team and Berrettini are the possible semi-finalists if Nadal does get through. And he's got a winning record over everybody in that group except for Novak Djokovic, but it's pretty much 50-50 split. 26 wins, 28 losses, and of course, Federer on a hard court's a different story as well, where even though he has a winning record, Federer has got some wins over Nadal on the hard courts lately. So that's interesting to see. We'll see what happens with Nadal. We will keep up to date with him as the tournament progresses next week. All right, let's jump into the second person in this group, Daniil Medvedev. So one of the new debut people in this tournament. There's a couple of them. You got Tsitsipas and Berrettini, who have never played this before as well. So I think he's got the most wins on tour this year, number 4 in the world. 59 wins and 18 losses, and 4 titles as well. Those 4 titles, first one was in the Sofia Open, way back before he started making that run towards the top 5. Then he won in Cincinnati, of course, before the US Open, that Masters 1000 event that he won. I think he might have beaten Djokovic along the way, maybe, I think. Also, he won St. Petersburg. Well, everyone was playing the Laver Cup. He won a tournament in Russia. And then he, of course, won Shanghai a couple of weeks ago. So he's got some good form lately. He obviously didn't play very well in Paris. He lost in the second round there. But I think that was a good loss for him. He wouldn't have... I don't think he would have been able to maybe not handle the pressure if he did come into London with that crazy winning streak that he was on. I think maybe having a loss could maybe reset him for this tournament, and now he can play and be hungry to win this. He's got a 0-2 record against Nadal, as we said before. He's actually got a massive winning streak over Tsitsipas, 5-0. So Stefanos Tsitsipas just can't beat Medvedev. They've played a bunch of times this year as well, and it's also a little bit of a fiery rivalry, which would be fun to watch. That's happening on day 1, so we might actually watch that one. And then he's got a 1-4 record against Sasha Zverev, but the last time they played was in the Shanghai final, and Medvedev wiped Sasha off the court. So that'll be interesting to see them play again in this tournament. Medvedev, I'd expect him to probably make the semi-finals. I mean, he has been the guy in form the last 6 months. Ever since Wimbledon, he has been the guy to watch. I mean, everyone's been talking about it. There's the big 3, and then Medvedev seems to be the guy knocking on the door. So I expect him to make the semi-finals, and we'll have to wait and see what he does. I say he beats Tsitsipas. He should beat Zverev the way they've been playing, and maybe Nadal. That's going to be the tie-break there. It'll be very interesting to see if he can actually get a win over Nadal in that matchup. Let's go to the third person in this group, Stefanos Tsitsipas. So he also makes his debut at this tournament. Had a great year. I mean, started the year off, I think, 15 in the world, made the top 10, and has just stayed in the top 10. He's been solid. He's had a couple of poor results mid-season, from Roland Garros to be past the US Open. Kind of had a bit of a slump there. You know, a couple of first-round losses at the Grand Slam events. You know, there was a final or semi-final chucked in, but it was kind of poor for him. But lucky enough, he made enough points at the start of the year so he could actually stay in that top 10. 50 wins, 24 losses, and 2 titles. Both those titles, one was in Marseille, which was on the hard courts, and one was on the clay courts in Portugal just before the French Open. So both those titles were at the first 6 months of the year, so he hasn't really won a title since, but he has had a couple of solid results lately, so we'll keep an eye on that. You can see he's played Nadal. He actually has a win over Nadal, which is the only person in that group that has a win over Nadal. That was actually on the clay in Madrid, so in front of Nadal's crowd, he has a win over him. So that's a really big confidence boost. He's got a 0-5 record against Medvedev, which is going to be interesting to see if he can turn that around. And then he's got a 3-1 winning record over Sasha Zverev, which is kind of strange because you would have thought that maybe Zverev would have a winning record or maybe even be even. But he's got a good record over Sasha, so maybe he can get a win over him. They will be playing, I think, maybe the second or the third match in the round-robin stage. So that'll be interesting to see. Probably the Medvedev match, which is happening first up, is going to be the most interesting match in that group, just because of their rivalry. There's something about their rivalry. They're not the best of friends, and they like to. They're very competitive, which is very fun to watch. A little bit of spice to their rivalry, which is good to see. So maybe he can get a win over Medvedev. We have to wait and see. Medvedev, of course, is in crazy form at the moment. All right, let's go to the last person in this group, which of course is Sasha Zverev. Not the greatest of seasons. 12 months ago, he won this title. Shocked the world, really. He surprised everyone. You know, brought it all together, won this tournament, and hasn't really lived up to that expectation. I mean, didn't do much at Australian Open, US Open. He didn't really deliver on the promise of winning this tournament last year, but maybe he can change that. He's number 7 in the world, 42 wins, 23 losses. So, like I said, not the greatest of years, but he did win a title, of course, in Geneva on the clay courts just before the French Open. So, you know, does it really matter, the clay court event? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. But he has good memories here, so we can't count him out because he has good memories of winning this last year, and he's got confidence, and he has some wins over these guys. 0-5 against Nadal, which is no surprise. It's very hard to beat Nadal. But he's got wins over Medvedev. He's got a 4-1 record over Medvedev. The one loss was actually a few weeks ago in Shanghai. So maybe Sasha can learn something from that match and reverse that. And then he's also got a 1-3 record over Tsitsipas. He hasn't beaten Tsitsipas since 2018. So middle of last year was his win over Tsitsipas, and he's lost to Tsitsipas recently as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. But, I mean, like I said, he won this last year. He knows how to play on this court. He obviously loves playing here because he has those good memories from last year. So, you know, you can't count him out against guys like Medvedev and Tsitsipas. He might be able to get those wins back. If he plays his best, he could easily make the semi-finals. It's going to be a bit of a stretch, but don't count out Sasha, even though his season hasn't reflected him being in good form. He could probably pull out some surprises here. Wouldn't be shocked if he beats maybe Tsitsipas or Medvedev. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that happened because those guys are obviously making their debut here and maybe a little bit nervous. Sasha, he's the guy who's defending the champ. He's defending champion, so he's gonna play like that. Let's go to the second group now, which is going to start off with Novak Djokovic. All right, so the number 2, which is strange to hear. We haven't said number 2 in the world, Novak Djokovic, for over a year now, so he's lost that number 1 spot. And I think it's really, really eating him up inside because he played so aggressive in Paris 2 weeks ago, winning that title. And I think he might be a little bit fiery this week in this event. He's got a tough, I reckon this is the toughest part of, this is probably the toughest group out of the 2, in my opinion. A lot of good players, a lot of titles won this year from these guys in this group. He's got a 53-9 win-loss record, does Djokovic. 5 titles to date as well, which is huge. The first title he won was at the Australian Open. Then he won on the clay in Madrid. He won on the grass at Wimbledon, of course, playing Federer in that massive final. And then in Tokyo, he won an event where it wasn't the strongest field, but he won that event nonetheless. And then Paris last week, he won that event as well, which is a good confidence boost going into this week. So you can see there, he plays Federer, Thiem, and Berrettini. Federer, he's got a 26-22 record over Federer, so he's got a win, a positive win-loss record over Federer, which would be interesting. Also, the last time they played was that Wimbledon final, so that'd be really fun to watch that one. I don't think we'll get that match until the 3rd and last match of the round-robin stage, but still, we're going to watch that match. It's going to be epic. Then he's got a 6-3 record over Dominic Thiem, but you got to remember, Thiem has that win over Djokovic back at Roland Garros, which is a huge confidence boost. I know it's on clay, so it probably doesn't count as much, but still, in the mind of Dominic Thiem, that could be huge. We'll see how Djokovic can respond against Thiem. And then he's never played Berrettini, which is very interesting. So we'll see how Berrettini, who is done pretty well in the last 6 months of the year to kind of push his way into this spot. We'll see how Berrettini does against Novak for the first time in this event. And then you can see there he plays all those other guys. He's got a winning record over pretty much everyone in the other group. The only one is Tsitsipas, where he's got an even record. So if he gets to the semifinals, Djokovic, which I expect him to do, he should be able to, unless he plays Nadal, which will be very interesting, he should be able to beat Tsitsipas and Zverev. Medvedev could be interesting, though. Medvedev has got wins over Djokovic this year and some big wins as well, so that'll be interesting. Hopefully we get a match like that in the semi-finals. Let's go to the second player in this part of the in the round-robin stage. We've got Roger Federer, number 3 in the world, 51 wins and 8 losses and 4 titles. Those titles were Dubai, which was his 100th title at the start of the year, just after the Australian Open. He won Miami as well, which was a huge title. He won against a lot of good players. I think he might have beat Medvedev in that run into that title. He won Halle on the grass courts for the 10th time. And then he also won Basel for the 10th time. That was only a couple weeks ago. He didn't play Paris, so he is coming into this event just like Djokovic on a winning streak. So we've got to keep an eye on Federer. He might be able to continue that run. Of course, he's got a massive lot of wins over Djokovic, also a lot of losses, 22 and 26 in terms of win and loss against Djokovic. Last time they played was the Wimbledon final. We all watched that one. Epic match. We get to see that one. Like I said, I think we're going to probably get that one in the the third match of the week. So that could be the deciding match. Will be interesting to see. Dominic Thiem has got a 2-4 record against Thiem. So he's a bad record against Dominic Thiem. And they played, of course, at Indian Wells earlier this year, where Dominic Thiem got the win in the final on the hard courts, which is a very important win for Thiem. So we'll keep an eye on that because that match could be crucial between Federer and Thiem. I think that's actually the first match we're going to watch this week. So that could be a crucial match to start the tournament because, the Djokovic match is going to be tough. You think that Federer beats Berrettini because he's got a 1-0 record over him already, but Dominic Thiem could be the tie-breaking decider, and maybe it's going to be a battle between Thiem and Federer who gets that second spot, because if Djokovic finishes on top, you think that, Federer and Thiem might be fighting it out for the second spot. So that's a fun match to watch. We're going to be watching that one, so make sure you stay tuned during the week. All right, and of course, I said Berrettini's got a 1-0 record. That 1-0 was actually at Wimbledon when Berrettini was on a little bit of a roll, and Federer stopped that in its tracks. So that's very interesting. We'll see how they go on the hard courts. They've never played on hard courts before. All right, let's go to the third person in this group. Number 5 in the world, Dominic Thiem, who has had the best hard court season of his career this year. He's won 3 titles on hard court. He's got 46 wins, 17 losses. He has had a very up and down season. He's won a couple of tournaments. He's lost the first round a few times. Very up and down. But he has won 5 titles, which is huge for him. And they haven't all been on clay. He won Indian Wells at the start of the year. Like I said, beat Federer in that final. He won Barcelona on the clay courts, which was huge as well. I think he might have beaten Nadal on the way, I think. Also, he won in Kitzbühel, which is in Austria. First time he ever won in Austria on the clay courts as well, so we'll keep that in mind. He won in Beijing, which was against a lot of guys. He had to play, he had the same, he was in the draw with guys like Tsitsipas, Zverev. I don't know if Berrettini was there, but I think a couple of other good players were in that tournament as well. So it's a very, very strong tournament, and he ended up winning the whole thing in Beijing. And then in Vienna, he won that tournament. Similar draw. It had a very strong field, and he won in front of his home crowd for the first time in Vienna, because that is his favorite tournament. He has said that before on the indoor hard court. So he's in a little bit of form as well. I mean, he's played really well. He played okay at Shanghai as well. I think he might have lost to Berrettini, which is going to be interesting to see them play it again. But you can see here, has played Djokovic a fair few times, 3 and 6, but he has the win over Djokovic at the French Open this year, so that could be interesting. Even though it's not on a clay court, this event, still, that's a confidence boost for Dominic Thiem. He's got a 4-2 record over Federer, like I said before, which is strange. 4-2, you got a winning record over Roger Federer. That is very, very hard to do, and maybe that Indian Wells has turned a corner for Thiem, and maybe he can turn that into another win against Federer. And then he's got a 2-1 record over Berrettini. And like I said, I think they might have played a couple of weeks ago in Shanghai, and I think they might have actually played in Vienna as well, where Thiem got a win as well. So we'll keep an eye on that match. That could be a crucial match. But like I said, Thiem versus Federer. First match on day 1, that's what we're going to be watching, and it's going to be very, very crucial for whoever wins that match, because you think that the semi-final spots would be up for grabs between Thiem and Federer, especially that second spot, if Djokovic continues his form. Let's go to the last person, and number 8 in the draw in the round-robin stage, Matteo Berrettini. So he made a late charge into the ATP Finals. I didn't know if he was going to make it or not. We had a very stressful week last week with Monfils having to win one more match. He would have made the finals. He didn't win. He lost. Berrettini gets through. Also, RBA was floating around as well, so it came down to the last week of the tournaments to get Berrettini in. He gets in. He deserves it after the second half of the year he's had, especially that US Open was amazing. 42 wins, 21 losses, and 2 titles this year. One in Budapest on the clay, and one in Stuttgart on the grass. So, very strange that he hasn't got a hardcourt title this year, even though he's played really well on hardcourt. We'll have to wait and see what he does. Hasn't got a record against Djokovic, never played him, so he'll be playing Djokovic on day 1. So we'll keep an eye on that. He's got a losing record against Federer, like I said, 0-1, and that was on grass at Wimbledon. And then he's got a 1-2 record against Dominic Thiem, but I think they have split their matches lately. So in the last couple of weeks, they've actually played each other a few times, and they've got a pretty split record. And he hasn't really played anyone else in the draw. You can see there in the other draw, or the other group, he's only got a couple of losses against those guys. He's very new to the scene. He's into the top 10 for the first time, and very interesting to see how he does this week. I wouldn't expect too much from him. If he gets a win, that'd be great. I kind of think he's a little bit making up the numbers. That 8th spot never really does too much damage, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe he can surprise. He's in the top 8. He got nothing to lose. I mean, he doesn't have much to lose against these guys. He's not expected to do well, so maybe he might come out firing. He might beat Thiem, which could be crucial for Thiem's chances of getting to the semi-finals. But against Djokovic and Federer, I just think their experience is going to be too much for him. But it would be a great experience for Berrettini in this tournament for the first time, and maybe it can catapult him into next year, doing some damage on the biggest stages, Australian Open. Maybe even he's proven that he can win on clay and grass courts. So who knows? Maybe he might make a Wimbledon quarterfinal or something next year as well. You can come and watch us on the live shows during the week. We'll be doing so many live shows, finishing off the season in style. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope to see you there. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video as well, and I'll see you guys soon.